Welcome to today's video. What we will be doing is transforming your answer from an okayish C grade answer to an excellent A grade answer. Have you ever got an exam answer back that you thought you'd done pretty well on? You had given relevant material, you make the point that you think answers the question, even showed a little bit of evaluation. And speaking to your mates afterwards, they say they've written the same, and when you get your paper back and the feedback you get was, you need to show more analysis. Link back to the question. Your answer lacks depth. So what are you going to do? How do you go about suddenly transforming your answer? And this video is going to show you exactly how you are going to do this. This is a typical paragraph in a class and achievement answer. The student makes the point right up here, which is about material deprivation, gives a brief explanation of what material deprivation is, they can't afford stuff like textbooks, links it to achievement, could negatively affect the child's achievement, and then gives a little bit of an evaluation point to finish. But this is all the student wrote about material deprivation. And knowing what we know about material deprivation, there is lots of opportunities that you can expand and go into a little bit more detail to show a bit more analysis, a bit more depth in explanation to explain exactly why working class students fail because of material deprivation. Starting off, we're going to transform the green part firstly. And this is going to show you how you can develop depth and analysis of this answer. I'm going to lose the first sentence as it really doesn't add much to the answer in terms of AO1. The only thing they identify is external, and it's a bit of an empty sentence, but it's taken up 3 lines, and what I really want you to do is pack your answers in as much as possible. So my new paragraph will start with the first external factor that causes underachievement is material deprivation, and what was originally said in 2 sentences is now in 1 sentence. I'm going to keep the next sentence, which was explaining what material deprivation is and how it could negatively affect the child's achievement. You could just clarify that causing failure, for example, of the working class. But now we're going to dig a little bit more into detail, and we're going to offer an example to gain the application and the analysis in 2 ways. So we're going to have the application here where we're going to say, well, if you don't have the resources at home, this means that when you do homework, it's become more difficult. So when the working class go to school, it doesn't appear that they've made an effort and they achieve a lower grade. So there's your application. But then we're going to offer a little bit of analysis here, because we're going to then start to discuss an internal factor, which is going to be impacted or developed from the external factor. So if you're not making an effort when you're doing work at home, you're going to then be suffering a little bit of teacher labelling, because the teacher is going to judge them as not being close to the ideal, whereas middle class kids who do their homework and spend a lot of time on the effort, that is going to be closer to what the ideal pupil is. And then we've got another bit of analysis here where we are comparing it to the middle class student. So we're saying that because the middle class can afford these resources, they can find doing homework that little bit easier. They spend more time on it, so when they do get to school, they're seen as the ideal pupil. And then it ends with the application to achievement at that final sentence. So now I'm going to transform the second part of that original paragraph that you saw right at the beginning, and instead of it being part of that same paragraph, it's going to be its own paragraph. Okay, so let's have a little bit of a look. So changing that first sentence, we're going to actually identify where that research comes from. It was from the Department of Education. But apart from that, the paragraph is going to keep all the original from that first, and then we're going to develop both of them. So for example, we are then going on to say working class kids on free school meals have a lower pass rate, and that is what was originally in the answer. But now we're going to add on to talk about what the implication is and what impact does free school meals actually have on working class kids. So free school meals is an indication of poverty. That might mean that they live in substandard housing. which might be overcrowded, or it might be damped. Logically was then saying overcrowded housing means that working class children have no place to study. The rooms that are damp will make the working class child ill, and that means that they're going to miss school. And then we've got the application, they're going to fall behind and find it harder to catch up, implicitly linking it to low educational achievement. And this is putting them at a disadvantage compared to the middle class. Very brief analysis there, not developed. Okay, but we are going to develop it in another way here. So furthermore, having free school meals may link to a factor within school, which is bullying, which is part of peer groups and subcultures. And there's a stigma against claiming free school meals, and often working class students will miss meals to avoid this. And these are going to widen the gap between middle class and working class children's achievements. At this point, you could actually go into detail and say, you know, things like if a child is hungry, they are not going to be able to concentrate in class, and that will mean that they're going to find it harder to get better grades because they are so distracted about either the bullying or the hunger that they might be feeling. And that's going to widen the gap between the middle class and the working class. However, we're keeping the evaluation point, but we're actually going to clarify why some working class kids who are on free school meals do better than some other groups that are not on free school meals. And this was from Feinstein. Feinstein did a little bit of research on this, and he identified that regardless of poverty, if you have got educated parents, children with those educated parents are more successful in school regardless of their class. And this is explaining why some working class students achieve and some middle class children aren't successful. So that comparison there of the middle class versus the working class right at the end does help with that evaluation point, just to clarify the point that was made. So overall, this video has shown you how to transform your answers in a possible 30 marker from a C grade to an A grade. Okay, I took one paragraph and I made it into two, but it just shows how much detail you can be going into, how you can gain the analysis, especially on a class and achievement answer, in two ways. Firstly, by comparing internal versus external, or showing how they link together, and also comparing the middle class versus the working class. As always, massive thank you for watching. Please click subscribe, click the bell if you want to keep updated. I've got loads of other videos that may be interesting for you, so please check them out and let me know what you think. I do reply to comments, I do value them, and have a great week.